Breaking tonight, 2 federal by-elections, 2 crucial tests just as Parliament returns.
High-flying, high-taxing, high-carbon hypocrite.
He wants to do nothing. He wants to hurt Canadians.
MPs are back, and so is the threat that the government could fall.
We are playing chicken with 4 cars.
Plus, Rosie's here on tonight's high-stakes votes.
Driver! Take 2 steps to your right!
New video shows the arrest after the latest apparent assassination attempt of Donald Trump. What CBC News has learned about the accused. And Central Europe underwater. Deadly floods send thousands running for higher ground. The destruction, the devastation, and the concern for what's still to come.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We're tracking results in 2 federal by-elections, 2 high-stakes races in the country tonight, starting in Winnipeg. The CBC News decision desk is now projecting the NDP's Leila Dance will win in Elmwood-Transcona, extending an almost unbroken NDP legacy in that riding going back decades. Then there is LaSalle-Émard-Verdun in Montreal, long dominated by the Liberals. But tonight, all night so far, it's been a 3-way contest with the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. So let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosie Barton. So Rosie, can we start with that NDP success in Winnipeg?
Yeah, so as you said, the decision desk projecting that the NDP will hold this riding. It has been an NDP riding for most of the past 4 decades, with the exception of one time in 2011. So this is very much an NDP stronghold. So critical, obviously, that Jagmeet Singh hold this, not only to keep his caucus happy and to keep his leadership secure, but also to fulfill what he is telling Canadians, that the NDP is a viable alternative to the Liberals and the Conservatives. Another part of the story, though, is you can see on your screen there, Adrian, is that the Conservative vote improved dramatically from the last election. That is a sign that the Conservatives are coming to eat the NDP's lunch in many ridings across the country, and that would give them some encouragement, even though they didn't pull off a win.
So, Rosie, then we've got Montreal, extremely tight race, and it's been a bit of a slow count. It's speeding up a bit now, though.
Yeah, it's speeding up a bit now. Been a slow count because of this protest movement to change the election system, electoral system from first past the post. So more than 90 names on the ballot makes for that slow count. But if you look at your screen right now, it has been like this through the night. In fact, there was one point in the evening, Adrian, where the vote share was exactly tied. And you can see there the lines almost, you can't even distinguish one from the other. That's how tight things are, separating from 140 votes to 60 votes. But this is a Liberal stronghold. It should not be this close for the governing party, and it should not be a 3-way race with the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. This is troubling for the Liberals. It would be another sign that an unpopular government is having a hard time in places where it shouldn't. If they manage to pull off a win tonight, it will be lucky and probably not as significant as they want. But the fact that the Bloc and the NDP are chasing at their heels is bad news for the Liberals tonight, because Quebec is so critical to them forming government. If the Liberals can hang on here, and as I said, those numbers have been flipping back and forth all night long, they will be satisfied with a slim win in any rate.
All right. Rosie Barton in Ottawa, thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
Well, tonight's by-elections are certain to shape Parliament's fall sitting, which kicked off today with fiery exchanges and some pointed jabs. Ashley Burke now with what's at stake as the minority government teeters on the edge.
Questions orales.
MPs are back and the gloves are off.
High-taxing, high-carbon hypocrite.
It's every party for itself.
He wants to do nothing. He wants to hurt Canadians.
This return to Parliament heated and personal.
She's lost her credibility. How long will the Phantom Finance Minister endure this humiliation?
I am not going anywhere.
From a game day social media post.
Let's go.
To a new online attack.
I've ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau.
The Liberals, for the first time, now trying to take down their old partner, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. after he broke off their deal to support the minority government in confidence votes.
And as soon as hard things got hard, they turned tail and ran, Mr. Speaker.
There is zero chance that the NDP is ever going to listen to Pierre Poilievre. He's a goon.
The NDP on the attack too.
Liberals and Conservatives, both of their governments have been in it for CEOs and big corporations.
The Greens weighing in on the tone.
Mr. Poilievre's quite unacceptable use of disrespectful nicknames. It's Trumpian.
This all playing out a day after Pierre Poilievre aimed to set this week's agenda.
It would be a nuclear winter for our economy if we had the highest carbon tax in the world.
Mr. Poilievre was so over the top, so irresponsible, so immature, and something that only a fraudster would do.
The Liberals opting to announce new mortgage rules to signal housing is their priority this fall. The Conservatives keeping their cards closer.
There's no need for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to show her hand. It's poker time right now.
Parties now watching to see if Poilievre is bluffing and if he'll move a non-confidence vote as soon as he can.
We are playing chicken with 4 cars. Eventually, one will hit another one, and there will be a wreckage.
The leader of the Bloc Québécois said he's unsure just how long this parliament will last.
Well, that's fair. And Ashley, if Parliament is really this combative, how long can it last?
Well, Adrian, Pierre Poilievre wants to fight a carbon tax election. But if that's the issue he tries to put forward in a non-confidence motion, one Bloc Québécois MP tonight said that his party is unlikely to support it because it only serves the Conservatives' agenda. That MP said Poilievre is going to have to do better than that if he wants to bring down the government.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa tonight. So Ashley just mentioned changes to mortgage rules. Well, the federal government says they are aimed at helping more Canadians buy a home. But as Nisha Patel explains, some experts question the long-term impact.
Housing is a priority.
The finance minister says new mortgage rules will help more Canadians get a foot in the door.
It is going to put the dream of home ownership in reach for more young Canadians.
Starting December 15th, all first-time homebuyers and anyone buying a new build will be able to stretch their mortgage over 30 years, up from 25. Buyers will also be able to get an insured mortgage of $1.5 million, up from $1 million. That could make a difference in cities like Toronto and Vancouver, allowing buyers to access more expensive homes with smaller down payments.
It's certainly going to put more cash flow into their pocket today at the expense of the future.
Stretching amortizations could mean lower monthly payments, though mortgage holders will pay more in interest over the life of the loan.
By focusing
this financial planner says with home prices still so high, potential buyers should think hard about the commitment.
Beware of getting kind of over-enthusiastic and saying, oh, now I qualify and now I'm going to be, I can afford a $1 million mortgage today, right? So it's important for everybody to stress test their situation to make sure that when their life changes over time, they're going to continue to be able to afford that level of debt.
The changes could boost the new condo market where sales have slumped.
I think that, truthfully, I think this is more of a lifeline for the development community than it is about helping young people.
Home builders have lobbied for changes like these, arguing more buyers would encourage more construction. But this economist has some concerns.
There is a real risk here that we simply increase housing demand, stimulate prices even more, and make affordability more challenging over the longer run.
A scenario that for many Canadians would put home ownership even further out of reach. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And there's more breaking news tonight. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in New York. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York confirming tonight the arrest was based on a sealed indictment that he expects will be unsealed tomorrow. Combs has faced allegations of sexual assault and sex trafficking. His lawyer says he's disappointed with the decision to prosecute him. We're learning new details about yesterday's apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump, how it unfolded, and the man now accused of trying to carry it out. Katie Simpson spoke with someone who says they knew the suspect.
Take 2 steps to your right!
The final tense moments of a manhunt on a Florida highway. Officers arrest Ryan Ruth without incident. The 58-year-old with a long criminal history now facing 2 new federal gun charges, and more are expected. Investigators say cell phone data suggests Ruth had been hiding for nearly 12 hours in the bushes outside Donald Trump's golf course before he was spotted by a Secret Service agent.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
Trump blaming his political opponents for both attempts on his life during an interview on social media.
Going on. A lot of people think that the Democrats, when they talk about threat to democracy and all of this.
President Joe Biden says the Secret Service needs more resources, as he called for calm.
No place in political violence for political violence in America. None. Zero. Never.
The Secret Service already increased security around Trump after the first assassination attempt in July, while the agency is now facing more questions about its ability to protect. More troubling details are emerging about the suspect.
It went from I thought he might be trying to help a little to just this very unhinged.
Evelyn Aschenberner got to know Ruth while working in recruitment for the Ukrainian military. Ruth tried to insert himself, quickly becoming a problem. Aschenberger says he created a fake recruitment website, tried to take strangers to the front line, and was obsessed with bringing people from Afghanistan into the fight.
I have no idea why Afghanistan. I don't know what he was thinking, and at this point I could just tell he'd lost the plot. I found him hostile and combative. I found him to be a detriment. He's not doing anything useful.
Aschenberger says Ruth would lash out over text message, and it got so bad they posted a warning on social media. Aschenberger is now trying to understand and process everything that's just happened.
I was in shock. I was confused, but not really surprised.
Investigators are interviewing the suspect's friends and family while also examining his social media feeds and electronics. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Ohio's Republican governor says he is sending additional law enforcement to the city of Springfield after the city was targeted by at least 33 separate bomb threats.
We cannot let the bad guys win.
The threats started after last week's presidential debate when Donald Trump pushed the baseless rumor that Haitian immigrants in that city were abducting and eating pets. The threats directed against Springfield's Haitian community have led to evacuations of hospitals and schools and now prompted the city to cancel a 2-day festival celebrating cultural diversity. In just a few minutes, we'll talk to a New York Times journalist who's been covering the fallout in The Breakdown. And a CBC News investigation has uncovered exclusive new details about the recent arrest of a terror suspect in Quebec. U.S. authorities had alleged the Pakistani man was on his way to New York to target Jewish people in an attack. Thomas Daigle shows us why police had to act fast, even after they detained him.
When the RCMP detained Mohammed Shahzeb Khan near the U.S. border, CBC News has learned police feared they didn't have enough evidence to keep the Pakistani man in custody for long, and worried he might just carry on with his alleged murder plot targeting Jews in New York. Court documents we obtained show a Toronto detective made an urgent request for a Canadian arrest warrant based on the FBI's evidence that Khan, quote, intended to kill as many Jewish civilians as possible, adding he's a flight risk. And if Khan were to flee to Pakistan, the United States would have limited ability to arrest and extradite him.
An interesting thing about this offense, of course, is that there was criminal conduct allegedly on this side of the border, but an intention to commit criminal conduct on the other side.
The court documents include this picture that authorities pulled from Facebook. They say Khan went by the online alias Shahzeb Jadoon, matching his social media profiles with the information he allegedly gave to undercover officers on encrypted chat.
Once we uncovered this threat, we worked with our partners in Canada to arrest Khan before he could carry out his deadly plot.
According to court documents, police believed this building here in Mississauga near Toronto was Khan's home. But in fact, we found it's an office building. This unit belonging to an immigration firm was listed as his address. And immigration consultant Fazil Kadir says while Khan came to Canada on a student visa, he was trying to obtain refugee status and stay for good.
So when you heard the allegations, though, that he was an ISIS supporter, was that surprising to you?
Yeah, I was surprised, of course, because I never had any idea about it.
The 20-year-old remains in this Quebec jail, awaiting his next court appearance in December. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
The first teenage girl to be sentenced in the 2022 death of a homeless man in Toronto will not face any more time in custody, but she will spend 15 months on probation. She's one of 8 charged in the swarming and stabbing of 58-year-old Kenneth Lee on a downtown Toronto street. She was 13 at the time and pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In sentencing, the judge said that played a part in his decision. 3 other girls have pleaded guilty in the case. 4 more are set to stand trial next year. And a former high-ranking member of the Canadian military has been found not guilty of sexual assault charges. The accusations date back more than 3 decades. Kayla Hounsell now on the verdict and the reaction tonight.
After being twice delayed, the verdict is in. Retired Vice Admiral Hayden Edmondson has been found not guilty of all charges, 1 count of sexual assault and 1 count of committing indecent acts.
I cried. It's a massive emotional outpouring because this has been hanging over our heads for over 3 years.
Stephanie Vio, who asked for a publication ban on her identity to be lifted, told the court she was 19 when Edmondson first exposed himself to her and later raped her on board a Canadian Navy ship in 1991. Edmondson testified he has never had any kind of sexual contact with Vio. The judge said there were issues with Vio's credibility and that while her story was not impossible, it was also not probable.
I don't regret bringing this complaint forward. I told the truth and I stand strong knowing that all of this was not done in vain.
The judge said Edmondson's testimony was thoughtful, articulate, and reliable.
Senior military leadership and the media rushed to judgment, assuming the truth of these allegations rather than upholding the presumption of innocence. The trial judge in fact found that the CBC had engaged in the obvious tainting of a witness.
Vio first told her story to CBC News in March 2021. Another woman who was also a witness during the trial also spoke to CBC News at that time. The judge said the details she provided about the night in question could not be used as corroborating evidence because they had been provided to her, in part by a CBC reporter, rather than from her own memory. I strongly suspect that this evidence was the result of tainting that occurred either during the CBC interview or that took root in later discussions she had with Stephanie Vio, said Justice Matthew Weber. In a statement, a CBC spokesperson said, "We believe we reported fairly and accurately on this story. We stand behind our journalism." Edmondson was one of several high-ranking military members accused of sexual misconduct in 2021. It prompted the federal government to appoint former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour to conduct an external review.
We've made a commitment. We're going to implement every one of those recommendations.
One of the core recommendations was that cases of sexual assault be transferred to the civilian justice system. Edmondson testified that he was directed to retire as a result of these charges after nearly 40 years in the Canadian military. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Ottawa.
The death toll is rising after heavy rains battered parts of Central Europe.
I've never seen flooding like this.
The devastation from a storm that could still cause more damage. A new AI-powered technology is helping doctors prevent more deaths.
I'm seeing that there's a chart watch alert.
We get a first-hand look at how it works. And a surprise donation for the future of hockey.
Well, it's emotional, and our kids need it.
We're back in 2. Well, parts of Central Europe are bracing for more severe flooding tonight. This after a powerful storm brought torrential rain over the weekend, triggering widespread flooding that's now killed at least 17 people. Chris Brown with the devastation and the emergency still unfolding.
In Poland, they're using words like Armageddon to describe the power of the deadly floodwaters that continue to rage through Central Europe. Branches barged through our windows and doors, said Derek Christen. Our gates were broken and all the furniture was dragged away. His 16-year-old son said everything in his bedroom is gone. The losses are unimaginable. The city looks like an apocalypse. The rains from a storm forecasters named Boris began over the weekend, dumping a month's worth in just days. Areas from Romania to eastern Germany were hit, but people along the Czech-Polish border may have had the worst of it. As towns and villages were submerged, people fled and left everything behind. With the wind and with the rain, man won't win, said this man from the Polish border town of Gahowaze, who spent the weekend, and who knows for how much longer, in a gymnasium. Further west, in Germany and Austria, the mighty Danube River and many of its tributaries burst their banks, stranding tourists.
I've never seen flooding like this. We're on a cruise and we're stuck for days where the boat's not even moving.
And Storm Boris is not done yet. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban took to Facebook with a demonstration of how high he expects the water will get in Budapest before meeting with workers overseeing the preparations. Until the water starts receding, he said, everyone stays on the job. And so, the sandbagging continues with urgency, as does the cleanup. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
There is continued fallout for people in Springfield, Ohio, after Donald Trump's false claims.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
But how did we get here? I speak with a reporter who's traveled to the community.
Justin Trudeau has let Canadians down.
The NDP returns to Parliament after ending their deal with the Liberals. So how long before they help trigger an election?
If there is a real appetite for change, and the NDP is perceived as being dragging its heels, that could certainly hurt them.
The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Tito Jackson, the older brother of Michael Jackson, has died at the age of 70. He was a founding member of the Jackson 5, the group that launched Michael's career in the 60s. Tito played the guitar and provided backing vocals. In recent years, he continued to tour with his brothers and also fronted his own albums. A family spokesman said he died of a heart attack. Well, at a hospital in Toronto, artificial intelligence is being used to save lives. Researchers say they have developed an early warning system. Lauren Pelly shows us how it keeps an eye on patients and alerts medical staff when they need to take immediate action.
What if artificial intelligence could predict when someone's about to die?
I'm seeing that there's a chart watch alert for the patient in the room down the hall saying that they're at high risk of having a deterioration.
Dr. Amal Verma helped develop that early warning system. It monitors all the changes in a patient's medical record to spot signs of danger.
So a patient's vital signs, their heart rate, their blood pressure.
Healthcare workers at this Toronto hospital are using the technology to find out fast when patients are suddenly getting sicker.
Is this his monitor here?
This longtime nurse says it flagged one patient's early blood work results, showing an animal bite had quietly caused a potentially life-threatening infection.
White count was way above what it normally is, and so we were able to then address that right away.
A new study in the Canadian Medical Association journal shows the tool led to a striking 26% drop in the number of unexpected patient deaths.
We're glad to see that we're saving lives.
The researchers say the system helps staff provide treatment sooner and also palliative care when patients are beyond saving. It's not a replacement for clinical care or staff, but acts like another pair of eyes as hospitals face high levels of burnout and staff shortages.
And that's saving a lot of time, it's easing a lot of stress, and we're hoping more and more of these solutions will be able to be deployed.
Healthcare AI tools are getting a lot of buzz. Some research teams say machine learning can detect cancer earlier or speed up drug discovery, but the bold promises don't always pan out.
it's important to know that in healthcare, we need to develop AI tools carefully.
Experts say what's exciting about the Toronto research is that it's helping real patients right now.
I thought this paper was a really interesting real-world study of trying modern predictive artificial intelligence techniques.
The team now wants to replicate their results elsewhere in hopes of bringing this new AI technology outside the walls of this hospital to help more patients across the country. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. With the NDP Liberal deal over and Parliament now back in session, we'll break down how election politics could play out.
The probability of having an election has increased a lot, not just a bit, but a lot.
But first, Haitian immigrants in a U.S. community living and working lawfully, repeatedly disparaged by a presidential candidate.
These rumors they're just not true.
Donald Trump amplified debunked claims, including rumors about eating people's pets. Let's talk with someone who's been reporting on the story for weeks. Miriam Jordan is the national immigration correspondent for the New York Times. Miriam, these claims about Haitian immigrants eating the pets. Now, you started covering Springfield long before Donald Trump made those wild claims and kept repeating them. What was it that took you to Springfield?
About a year ago, a Haitian immigrant on the first day of school accidentally struck a school bus, and the school bus ended up tipping over and ejecting an 11-year-old boy. The boy died at the scene of the accident, and a lot of simmering tension came to the surface in the community after that. Folks in the city, residents of Springfield, started to pack public meetings and to air their frustrations and complaints about these newcomers in their midst. They didn't speak English. They were pushing up rent prices, as they told it. You might be bringing, they might be dangerous. Had they been properly vetted? There are a lot of questions about the Haitian community and some antipathy toward them that started to come to be aired.
Can you walk me back a little bit, Miriam? How did they get there, and why did they end up in Springfield?
Well, this is a Midwestern town that, like many others in the last few decades in the United States, had lost population. And the city leadership had come up with a plan, along with the Chamber of Commerce, to attract new businesses, to revitalize the city. And that is what brought the Haitian immigrants. They heard that there were lots of jobs there because there'd been this new investment that arrived in the city. And so they went, and the trickle turned into a surge. And that surge is what began to cause this unease among the local population. The services in the city were burdened by the arrival of so many people. About 12 to 20,000 Haitians, and those are estimates by city officials, arrived since 2020, right? Post-pandemic.
Since these claims sort of jumped to the accusation about eating pets, what's happened to the Haitian immigrants, the Haitian community in Ohio? For the people you're talking to, how reluctant are they to come forward? How afraid are they?
These recent threats, right, and this very, very nasty rhetoric coming from politicians in the United States who are very high profile, running, for president and vice president of the country, has spooked them. And there have been a spate of threats, not only toward Haitians in the community, but toward the community at large. And the city has basically been in a state of tension and semi-lockdown now for several days.
Has anybody been able to figure out where this actually came from, this initial claim that has gone viral? Or does it live in the land of urban legend at this point?
There was a confluence of like Facebook posts and posts on X and other platforms that, had to do with people snatching cats and eating them. I mean, people, stealing ducks from ponds and parks and tucking them under their arms and walking away with them. And it just kind of all went viral. And the truth is that every single one of those claims has been debunked by now. And still the vitriol and the memes and, the repetition of the claims, has not ended.
Miriam Jordan, thank you for taking the time for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Now that Parliament is back, the NDP is under pressure to trigger an election.
If you don't want to be in this deal with them anymore, well, then why don't you vote no confidence?
About that's Andrew Chang breaks down when that could possibly happen. Next. When the New Democrats scrapped the supply and confidence deal with the Liberals, it created a sudden shift in the political landscape.
They're hearing constituents say, we're tired of this government and you seem to be holding it together, you're with them.
While it lasted, NDP support assured the government it would not fall. Now, all bets are off. But that doesn't mean we know for sure what will come next. Andrew Chang, host of About That, explores 3 possible scenarios driven by the NDP.
There was one question that came up over and over on Parliament Hill this week.
But you've been asked several times and you won't answer. Do you have confidence in the Trudeau government as they stand now?
I will be clear again. We have absolutely ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, and that means an election is more likely.
Clear. That's not clear. You're
and an election, whenever that election comes, we'll be ready to fight it.
The NDP has been effectively bound to the Liberals on every important vote over the past 2.5 years. That agreement, he mentioned, is why. And now that Jagmeet Singh has ripped it up, the NDP has a brand new power, the power to topple the government and trigger an election. The question is, will they? And if so, when? Let's start with the earliest possible scenario.
The probability of having an election has increased a lot, not just a bit, but a lot.
As soon as Parliament resumes business in the fall, the official opposition almost certainly will call a vote of non-confidence.
Yeah, now, a vote of no confidence is pretty much what it sounds like. An opposition party can, at basically any time, force a vote in the House of Commons that could bring down the government and trigger an election. Usually, in a majority government, the opposition doesn't have the numbers to actually pull it off. But in a minority, different story.
Why don't we just end the debate and let Canadians decide and have a carbon tax election?
Poilievre, I think, has a space to play here where he comes in and puts a lot of pressure on the NDP for saying, if you don't want to be in this deal with him anymore, well, then why don't you vote no confidence?
So with Jagmeet Singh making such a show of breaking ties with the Liberals,
Trudeau's Liberals can't deliver change.
the NDP could decide to vote against the government at the earliest available opportunity. If they did, there'd be like a 5-week campaign and an election could come as early as October. That's pretty fast.
I have listened to the video of Jagmeet Singh and his press conference, and he has repeated over and over and over that Canadians should be prepared for an election.
Everyone we spoke to agreed he does sound like he's ready to start campaigning, but consider the position the NDP is in right now and how long they might need to recover. So in the polls, they're pretty far behind, both the Conservatives and the Liberals. And according to one recent survey, more than 30% of respondents said their opinion of Singh and the NDP has actually gotten worse since 2022 when that deal with the Liberals was struck.
They're hearing constituents say, we're tired of this government and you seem to be holding it together. You're with them. You're in bed with them.
So recasting the NDP in a different light, shedding that image of being a Liberal partner, yes, that might take some time. But also consider how else a fall election might be bad for the NDP. These are provincial elections slated for October. Elections where the NDP machine is fundraising, campaigning,
They are under threat from the rise of the BC Conservatives. David Eby needs to have every single NDP resource going towards that provincial campaign between now and October.
That means staff, volunteers, many who do double duty, who work both provincial and federal elections. To do both at the same time, that's tough.
And so that maybe could delay an election at the federal level.
And finally, consider how much of the NDP's agenda is close to becoming law, but not quite there. Pharmacare is a big one. Liberal and NDP cooperation has pushed it through the House, but not the Senate. Calling an early election might jeopardize quite a bit.
If an election is called immediately and Poilievre comes in and rips that up, then that's the end of the big gains that the NDP has used to justify entering into this blind confidence arrangement.
So the NDP may very well decide they're not ready for a fall election. They'd rather buy some time. But how much time do they actually need? So right now, they're a full 25 points behind the Conservatives in the polls. So if they're trying to actually form government, yeah, that's a pretty big gap to close. But they're only 8 points behind the Liberals.
My sense is that Singh's ambition is to become the leader of the official opposition.
Even if it means a Conservative majority government, if the NDP was the official opposition, that's an outcome they would happily take.
So the question then becomes, is it possible for Singh to bridge that 8-point gap by the end of this year? In theory, yeah, the NDP has done it before. In March of 2011, Jack Layton's NDP were also polling about 8 points behind the second-place Liberals. Just over a month later, they managed to flip that gap and were polling 8 points ahead of the Liberals going into the election.
For the first time in our history, they have asked us to serve as Canada's official opposition.
Now, different leader, different circumstances, we get it. But the point is, a big reversal in politics isn't impossible.
So if they have moved up a little bit, if they're closing the gap on the Liberals, maybe they're even in second place in the polls, then the NDP might think that a campaign in the winter could be worth it.
And there is a built-in time pressure that lends itself to a winter election, because while the NDP can take time to rebuild, they're also going to get hammered by the Conservatives if they prop up the Liberal government for too long.
So my message to sellout Singh is this: commit today to voting for a carbon tax election at the earliest confidence vote in the House of Commons.
If there is a real appetite for change, and the NDP is perceived as being dragging its heels because it's not yet ready, that could certainly hurt them.
Because Singh didn't just come out and say, this deal has run its course, it's time to move on. He called Trudeau selfish, he called him weak, and said he's ready to fight. So every time he votes to keep the government intact, not triggering an election, he's going to have to explain why.
These things that he said about Trudeau are serious, right? If he really believes that Trudeau is all for the corporate sector and not for the people, well, then what the heck is he going to do supporting them anymore?
So one opportunity the NDP could pinpoint as a way of triggering a winter election would be if the government puts out another fall economic statement, like they've done the last few years.
Typically, anything that has to do with money, with a budget, with estimates, appropriations are considered matters of confidence.
And if a vote is a matter of confidence, that's a chance to topple the government. But here's where some of the experts we spoke to wonder if there might be a compelling argument for Jagmeet Singh to bide his time even further still, especially if he feels like the threat of an election gives him leverage to extract concessions from government.
I wonder if there's a scenario around the fall economic statement where we see some politics from Jagmeet Singh, and he says, look, I'll support you, but you got to do this, this, and this.
Okay, so let's say spring rolls around. Jagmeet Singh has had half a year to differentiate himself. The snow's starting to melt. The Conservatives are still pressing the NDP to topple the government. And then the Liberals throw their annual budget into the mix.
If you don't pass the budget, you can't govern, right? So a budget is a matter of confidence. It is always a matter of confidence.
Historically, failing to pass a budget has been one of the most common reasons for minority governments to fall. In fact, it's what happened to Trudeau's dad in 1974. And in this case, all of the analysts we spoke to said the NDP might not have much of a choice here. It might become risky for the NDP to vote for the Liberals' next budget after everything Singh has said over the past few days.
Justin Trudeau has let Canadians down. And Canadians are done with his endless disappointment and delay.
Because a budget vote isn't just about one issue, one bill, or even a handful of spending priorities. It's a vote on the Liberals' entire agenda for the year to come.
People actually pay attention to it. And so people are waiting to see what the reactions are for the opposition leaders and if there's if there's drama around it.
Voting down the government in the spring probably makes a lot more sense than trying to swallow their pride a little bit and back them for another little while.
So, could we see a spring election? Well, at this point, according to most of the people we spoke to, it's probably the most likely scenario because it gives the NDP 5 or 6 months to get ready, to carve out their own position, and to avoid the risks we laid out of calling an election too early. And the budget gives them a pretty good opportunity to really take a stand, to say, we tried to get the Liberals to put X, Y, Z into the budget, but they didn't, so let's go to the polls.
So that would be, I would say, the big date to look at. The budget, which will be presented, we don't really know, March, April, maybe May.
The Liberals could, of course, also go to the Bloc Québécois to try to get some support to keep the government alive. But there's not really much that can be gained out of that for either the NDP or the Bloc Québécois, because anything that's in the budget will end up getting undone by the Conservatives within 12 months.
But what a tough thing to predict, right? Singh's political calculations will be shifting constantly. He'll be watching the polls. He'll be watching the upcoming by-elections and provincial elections to see how his party does. He's also watching the US election.
Well, these could be judgment calls, right? To kind of estimate how they believe the public is feeling about their current situation, how much they want change, and when would be an appropriate time to do that.
And just to throw one more variable into all of this, Trudeau himself could decide to call an election at any time he wants as well. So, Adrian, while spring might seem most likely right now, every single season from now until next fall is on the table.
All right, next, for some kids in Cape Breton, starting out in hockey just got a little easier.
It's just to see the smile on their faces and they're happy.
A generous gift to help them on the ice in our moment. Well, this little one has not yet learned to skate, but he is so ready to hit the ice thanks to the NHL Players Association, which donated gear to help kids in Cape Breton get started. And parents in the Glace Bay community were thrilled as their kids now have a chance at tearing up the ice. Tonight, the next generation of hockey makes our moment.
The NHL Players Association have generously donated 25 full sets of gear. That's some sticks, gear bags, skates, helmets, the whole 9 yards. They got to feel part of the community because they're our community coming up. There's no other way around it. It's just to see the smile on their faces and they're happy. And a lot of people can't afford gear. There's probably over $25,000, $30,000 worth of gear or more.
This is why it's first year. He's got to learn how to skate, and he's our grandson. He needs some gear to play hockey, and it's a big help. It's a big help because everything costs so much money, like, food and everything else, right? So it's going to help a lot. It's going to be really, really good.
Well, it's emotional, and our kids need it. There's such thing as better than Christmas Day. This, for me, it's the best day. Can help the kids, and that's what we're about, helping kids.
This is a pretty neat pairing. So the Glace Bay Learn to Skate program teaches kids from across Cape Breton how to skate. Then the NHL Players Association, I think in some 34 countries, has done this for some 80,000 kids. Those kids right now really happy to get it. From all of us here at the National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.